Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Tomatoes are the queen of the garden. Today we're going to plant some and talk about how to take care of them. Also, we'll be planting sweet corn. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Elena Haggerty. Elena is the owner of Tomato Baby Company, and Mr. D will be joining me later. All right, Elena, guess what? Welcome to our Family Plot square foot garden.
We need some tomatoes in here.
We need some tomatoes in a couple of these squares. So
Okay.
we have you to help us out with that.
We
So
can take care of that.
let's take care of that, all right?
Nighttime temperatures have to be above 50.
Okay.
We good?
All right. I think we
Daytime, nighttime.
good. Daytime, nighttime.
They can stunt below 50 degrees.
Okay.
So today we're planting big boys.
Okay.
And I tell you what, we've got some water soluble fertilizer.
Okay.
You can use organic.
So that's
if
your
you're
own
an
mixture?
organic gardener.
Okay, all right.
This is just an all-purpose.
All purpose? Okay, good deal.
I like to give them the fertilizer about 20 minutes before, 20, 30 minutes,
Okay.
so that before we disturb the roots, they can take it up without any restriction
Okay.
whatsoever or without drying out. A lot of times you put them directly into the dry soil, and that dryness will start, the dirt will start to wick away the moisture on the root ends and
Okay.
could kill the root ends.
Good, that's
so
a good point.
give them a good drink beforehand.
Good drink beforehand, all right.
Okay, so the difference between a thin stalk on our tomato plant,
All right.
even in these transplants, versus a thicker stalk is how much of the stem you plant in the ground. The stem, when you bury it, will make roots all along the stem.
Okay.
So that's what's done when you transplant a little seedling. When they're burying it, that's making more roots and it makes a thicker stem. So when we're planting it in here, we want to do the same thing.
Okay.
We're planning on planting as much of the stem without damaging too much of the foliage.
Okay, how about that?
So, but to bury them, so we're going to prune off anything that we don't need on the bottom so we can bury the stem. So,
So you just pinch those off?
pinch
Okay.
these bottom leaves off.
All right.
Take them on
That's
out
an interesting
here.
planting technique. Okay. How do the roots look?
So,
Everything?
good.
Everything's okay?
We're going to plant it up to about here.
Wow, okay.
And it's going to make a shorter plant,
Yeah.
but it's going to make a stout stem.
Okay.
So,
We want stout stem.
stout
Right.
stems.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's see how much you dig.
Oh, this is good.
Yeah. You like that?
Yep.
You good?
You want to put it in the middle of the square?
You can put it in the middle of the square.
Okay. We'll loosen up the dirt. We want to
Okay.
loosen up the dirt as much as possible
All
up
right.
underneath. They say they need about the size of a 5-gallon bucket for their roots. And of course, the roots are going to extend up under the ground, so
Sure.
they've got that, and it's nice and loose. So, just going to loosen up a little bit to make sure. The roots are lazy. Anything we can do for them makes them grow easier.
All right.
Okay.
Make it easy for the roots. All right, I got
Let's
it.
put the roots over here on this end. Take this little guy out of here. Okay.
So do we need to...
Loosen up the bottom.
Okay.
And they call this the trench method too, where you just
Trench.
drag
All
a little trench. And we're gonna lay it down, break up the roots a little bit,
right. Okay.
lay it down, and we're gonna turn it up. And then we're just gonna cover it here. But I'm gonna give it another drink,
Okay.
just to make sure. Which, I don't know why I'm always planting when it's dry as a bone, and I have to use the whole gallon.
Wow.
But this is
That's pretty
good
good.
spring dirt, wet here, so we don't have to put as much. And then just cover it over. It doesn't have to be very deep at all. And then it's gonna turn up. The sun will come along
Right.
and turn it
Yeah,
up
right.
even more, but we can bend it a little bit and we're not gonna break it.
Okay.
I sort of make it stand up a little bit. Now,
Wow.
when you're fertilizing tomato plants, you fertilize over the leaves because they foliar feed as well as feeding through the roots. I know when I pour the water over top of these are going to end up on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to pinch off these ends
Wow.
just so my water is going to roll off like off a duck's back.
Okay.
We put some water down in the hole, straight to the roots, and then we're going to water it in.
How about that? So we're gonna water all the foliage. Okay.
Now, it didn't drag it down because we pruned it and took
Right.
those big leaves off, and it's
Sure.
going to make up for it soon.
Now, how often would you fertilize this tomato?
A couple weeks.
Couple weeks.
Go by the directions, do the stronger strain, stronger strength,
Okay.
which usually about 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
And it should say that on whatever fertilizer you're using,
Okay.
or whether it's organic or all purpose.
Okay. So you loosening up the soil again, right? Soil is good.
It's real loose.
Now, do you still do the trench method in a container or in a 5-gallon
Yes.
bucket? So you still
And
would?
if you had a 5-gallon bucket, you would just roll this guy up and turn him up.
Okay.
Roll him in a circle around the top so that he's got plenty of time to grow down in the depth of the plant.
Got it. Got it.
Now, sometimes, here's another one. Sometimes I cheat. You can't plant till it's above 50 degrees to keep them from stunning.
Okay.
But let's say I wanted to get which around for us, if it's a on-time spring, talking about April 15, something like that. But if I want to get a start earlier, I get one of those cheap, like flimsy, like what you would buy a bush or tree in, like
Oh,
a
yeah, yeah.
3-gallon
Okay.
container.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be fancy.
Okay.
And I cut a big hole out of the bottom.
Okay.
So I can keep it inside, keep it guarded, pull it in on the cold nights when we get one here and there,
Yeah.
and then bring it back out during the day.
Smart.
And then my plants start before others.
Gotcha.
Then when I take, and it's got a hole in the bottom, I put a piece of cardboard down, put my dirt in, put my plant in, curled it up near the top, turned its little head up, and then as it fills up the container or grows to the bottom, it'll go on out that hole, and it can make its way out of that cardboard.
Okay. Got it.
That's how you can get a start a month or so,
Okay, it's the
couple
early
months
start.
before it's time to actually put them in the garden.
Got it. Got it. Got it.
But again,
Okay.
yeah, you would still be doing the trench method.
Okay. All right. So not
Now-
deep. Doesn't have to be deep.
No, it doesn't have to be deep. It's
Okay.
a shallow thing.
It's shallow,
So
okay.
let's say this plant was this tall. We would still lay it down. I could even lay it down over here, put its root ball here, and turn its head up in the center.
Okay.
But I would do the exact same thing.
Okay. I think it's such an interesting technique. Okay.
I didn't give this one any water in the hole to begin with, so we're going to give it more. Now, I'll make sure I
pinch 'em
take these off,
And again, why are you pinching those off?
because let's hit it with the water and see what happens.
Okay. Ah, good demo.
Okay.
That was good.
That's not
Okay.
good for them.
Right. Gotcha.
They're dirty.
Okay.
That's not good for them. And also they're laying up against the dirt
Sure.
and the sun, and I just know that kills the leaves.
Sure.
So, by pinching these back just a little bit, they don't need those big leaves, and that leaves them up this way instead of out.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Okay.
Got it. Got it.
So let's hit it again now that it's pruned.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a beat down, but it didn't lay down in the dirt.
It sure didn't. Yeah.
And it's not going to miss it. Besides, it's going to put out roots all along that stem. So when these guys in about 1 month, they should be maybe about as big around as my thumb. A little bit, they'll be a little bit less.
Okay.
If you can buy, people ask me what kind of plants do you want to buy? Or what is a good plant when you see one? I don't care if it's tall and leggy, as they say. That means to me that it's growing well.
Okay.
If it's all light colored, maybe it didn't have enough sun. That's not so great. You might have to harden it before you put it in the garden.
Okay.
But let's say it's this tall. It doesn't have any growth retardants on it. And
Okay.
it's sometimes some of the big box stores will spray with growth retardants to keep them
Yes,
short and
yeah, slow
compact
down.
and look pretty.
How about
So
that?
don't get tied up with the plant needing to look pretty.
Okay.
If its stem is that long, that's all roots. So by putting them in here, even if I wanted to keep it in the square, I could just lay it down in a circle and turn its head up right there.
Wow, how about that?
And it's still gonna have at least 5 gallons worth of volume area to grow down below.
Okay.
So,
Elena, I'm gonna let you continue to do what you're doing, but we thank you so much for that demonstration. That was good.
okay.
That was good.
When you're growing your tomato plants, it's very important to keep the foliage off the ground. Also, whenever you're watering, you don't want the dirt to splash up on those leaves. This is how they catch a lot of diseases. You can use several methods. One is the twine and stake method to just raise them up and keep the foliage and the splash from watering from getting on the plant. Or you can buy tomato cages, maybe one of those big box stores where you had purchased your tomato plants. You can also make your own out of a concrete wire. It's much more rigid, and these will last for years and years.
All right, Mr. D, we're in the family plot garden. I'm excited because we're gonna talk about planting corn, one of my favorite vegetables.
Right, good old sweet corn.
Good old sweet
Can't
corn.
beat it.
So how do we need to get started?
Well, the first thing we did, back in the fall, we prepared the ground initially, and we pulled a soil test. We did it the right way. We pulled a soil
That's right.
test, and the instructions or results recommend 15 pounds of 15, 15, 15 per 1,000 square feet. So we don't have 1,000 square feet, but we do have 100 square feet. So we'll knock a 0 off, and it's 1.5 pounds of 15, 15, 15, and that's 24 ounces, I think, and that's what I've got here.
That's easy math.
Easy way to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I've got it weighed out, and I'm supposed to broadcast this.
Okay.
And so we're going to broadcast it, and then we're going to rake it in a little bit, and then we will come back and side dress the corn when it's 8 to 10 inches tall with some more nitrogen. So let's go ahead and I'm going to try to do a broadcast here. I don't want to run out like when I'm halfway through here. That won't work very good. I'm going to try to put out about half of it first go around, and then the other half the second go around.
Oh yeah. Look at that.
There you are.
You've done
Came
that
out
before.
perfect. How about that?
How about that? That worked out just right.
Okay, now let's rake it in
Okay.
a little bit. I'll let you hold that.
Hold that for you.
And I'm just going to rake it in a little bit. And this is, you don't really have to do this because these fertilizers are water soluble, but I just kind of like I don't particularly want the seed to come in direct contact with the fertilizer.
Okay.
And when we make our rows, we hopefully won't be able to actually see any fertilizer. Okay, we got that in pretty good shape.
Looks good.
Okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to put double rows. We're going to plant 2 rows 10 to 12 inches apart, 10 feet long. Then we're going to skip over about 36 to 40 inches, 2 more rows, 10 to 12 inches apart. And so we'll have, and the reason we're having the side-by-side rows is corn's wind pollinated, and it makes pollination process better. And over here we're going to do a different style. We're going to plant a 4-by-4 foot section, and we'll have corn in a checkerboard pattern at 12 inches apart, about 12 inches apart. And that's good if you have a smaller area, raised beds, things like that. That will work. You can still reach to get in, and you also have the good cross-pollination will take place. So let me start with my first row here.
All right.
Now my dad would be upset because unlike Natalie, he liked straight rows, and we had stakes that we would put on both ends and stretch a string. And those still are out there on the family farm somewhere, but I guess I should have brought them today.
We're going to see how straight you are then.
Let's see here.
Not bad, not bad.
Think it'll work? I need a hoe. I'm used to using a hoe for this, but we'll make do with this rake. Okay, that is 1 row, and this is exactly, I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit for now. This is precisely 12 inches. Okay, about 36 inches. Now this design is strictly from the University of Tennessee publication, Growing Sweet Corn in Home Gardens.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to take a look at it, they can find it online.
How does the soil look to you?
Looks good.
It's good.
It's good. You can tell it was a little wet when we worked it last fall because we do have a few clods in there, but it would be pretty good. Okay, we're ready to plant this.
What are we planting?
We're
Rocky.
planting sweet corn, peaches and cream.
Peaches and cream. Love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
very, very good sweet corn. Yep. 10 to 12 inches apart. I'd say let's go 12 inches apart.
12 inches? All right.
That'll make the ears bigger.
All right. That was about right, huh?
Mm-hmm. Now, let me cover it up. Okay, that's got that in pretty good shape. Okay, let's try the checkerboard style now.
I'm looking forward to this, Mr. D. I really want to see this.
Okay, this is a little different, and like it's really good if you want to, if you have a raised bed or if you have a very small area, and you pretty much ensure that you get good cross pollination. Now we want to make sure we stay at least 12 inches away from that other row there.
Okay.
Can we a marker there we can put down? That's about right. Okay. So I'm just going to make the holes first. I'm going to come about 12 inches from that row and 12 inches from outside, and I'm just going to dig a little bitty hole. Not very big at all.
Okay.
Coming 12 inches. Same thing. It's a lot better to do this than to plant one row of corn 100 feet long, because the wind will just blow the pollen away unless the wind is just out of the right direction. It didn't get pollinated. This way, no matter which direction the wind's blowing, you get pollination occurs. So we only need 12 seed. There's 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Now, do we need to plant them close together? What about thinning? I mean, something like that, or what are your thoughts?
This is fresh corn seed, so I'm assuming that the germination is really good.
Okay.
You're going to know very quickly whether or not the corn is up, and if one of these doesn't come up, you just need to go out there real quickly and replant. Drop another seed there. You know, I mean, they'll start spiking, in just, a week or so.
Okay.
So to cover that up, I'm not going to use clods to cover it.
All right.
I'm going to try to just.
You're going to hand cover.
I'm going to kind of hand cover it. Okay. In just a few days, we'll see what we've got.
See what we got. I can't wait to see. Thanks,
I'm
Mr.
glad
D.
you've got this good fence around here because we'll keep the raccoons out. Maybe.
I was just thinking about raccoons earlier. I sure thought about that.
Yep.
Appreciate that, Mr. D, though.
Okay, good deal.
We'll see what happens.
See what happens.
The way onions work is that they grow leaves, and each leaf corresponds to a ring in the onion. And so what you want to do is you want to try and get the leaves and the tops of the onions to grow as large as possible before it sucks all of that energy and sugars back down into the bulb. And to do that, you need to add nitrogen fertilizer. So about every 3 weeks or so on an onion plant, you want to fertilize it, and you put a lot of nitrogen on it. Here we have 2 square feet of onion, and that actually is 1.5 tablespoons of ammonium sulfate, which is a lot of nitrogen. The way that I do it is I take my ammonium sulfate, and here I'm going to measure it out, and I have some water in this watering container here, and I'm just going to go ahead and put that in the water. There's 1.5 tablespoons. Take that, just kind of swish it around to dissolve it, and then I will go ahead and water the plants. Now, I want to make sure that I don't get it on the leaves because it will burn. So there we go. And that'll last about 3 weeks or so, and we need to come back and do it again. Now, we want to stop putting nitrogen on the onions when they start to bulb. So when the stem starts to thicken out and you start to see the bulb growing rapidly, that's when you stop adding nitrogen to onions.
All right, here's our Q&A segment. Y'all ready?
Yes.
These are great questions. Here's our first viewer email. My husband and I recently moved, and I'm so excited to be able to plant a cherry tree. I did some research and found the birds like sweet cherries more than tart, and as I like them both, I bought a tart cherry. Are the maintenance, pests, and problems the same for sweet and sour cherries? Thank you. This is Gail from Jacksboro, Tennessee. So Ms. D, she did her research. She did her homework, right? Mm-hmm. So is are maintenance going to be the same, for the sweet and tart cherry?
Pretty much. On the home orchard spray guide that we have with UT, it doesn't differentiate between sweet and tart.
Right.
You basically follow the same spray schedule that you would for peaches and plums. It's peaches, plums, and cherries. Yeah. It doesn't mention sweet or tart. Now, in Tennessee, she's from Tennessee. In Tennessee, the tart cherries seem to do better, and you may have fewer problems with it. As far as maintenance problems, things like that. The sweet cherries tend to develop more canker diseases than the tart cherries do, and they also are more susceptible to cold injury than the tart cherries are. So that's pretty much the only difference. But as far as the spray schedule and maintaining it and things you can do, no difference.
Yeah, it's all the same. Yeah, and you talk about the fruit tree guide. Yeah, it just says cherries.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. Which we had that on the website.
Right.
For
Home Orchard Spray Guide, University of Tennessee, revised in 2021.
New and updated.
It's last year.
How about that? But yeah, we appreciate the fact that she did her research. To find that out for sure. But yeah, get that spray guide. That's going to help you out, Ms. Gail. All right, thank you for that question. Here's our next viewer email. I have a 4-year-old Alberta peach tree, and 2 years ago it had so many peaches some limbs broke. This past year we didn't have any fruit. This is what the tree looks like now. Do I need to prune it again? This is Judy in Morristown, Tennessee. So, Mr. D, I see you checking that out. So, does it need to be pruned again? I know the answer to that
Judy,
one.
Yes, sure do. You need to go out there right now and open up the center of that tree. And just, you said you had so many peaches, the limbs broke.
Right, the limbs broke.
And you said the tree hadn't been pruned lately. Well, yes, Mother Nature did some pruning.
Right.
The tree's going to get pruned one way or the other if it has fruit on it. And you do a lot better job than Mother Nature. Mother Nature, she gets kind of rough with the tree, But yeah, I would open up the center of that tree, and then not only would I do that, even because if you open up the center of the tree and bring it down to about 8 or 9 feet in height, always making your cut above a bud that's growing to the outside.
That's a good point.
And do that in the wintertime. You're controlling the growth. You're encouraging new growth to go in the direction that you want it.
Right.
If you do that when you're pruning, and then when you have fruit on there, before the pit hardens, that means before they're dime-sized, look at the fruit, and if you can imagine how big you want that fruit to be, and if you've got 6 in 6 inches,
right.
that ain't gonna happen, so go and take out.
Prune a few out.
You need to take out, I mean, when you do a good job of pruning, you're probably taking out 80% of the fruit that was gonna be on the tree anyway. Then go in there and take out another 80%, and you will have, and follow the spray guide.
Follow the spray guide, I was waiting for that.
Religiously follow the spray guide.
Yes.
And to control the insects and diseases, you'll have nice big fruit that won't break the limbs out of the tree.
But you know what, I don't think people can envision that though. When you're thinking about pruning, to thin out some of the fruit.
You don't?
It's hard
because you're taking so much fruiting wood off.
Yeah.
You're taking if you're taking off 80% of the tree, that's a lot of fruiting wood.
Yeah.
That's 80% of the fruit.
That's a lot.
And then thin it out. You will be happier. The tree will be happier.
The tree will.
If there's
Judy, you got it.
If a tree has feelings.
If the tree has feelings, it will be happier. All right, Miss Judy, you heard it now. He was excited about that. All right. So there you have it. All right, here's our next viewer email. Can onions be direct seeded in my raised bed garden instead of setting out plants or bulbs? And this is John from Harrison, Arkansas, Mr. D. So you like onions, don't you?
I do. I like onions. My wife don't like onions.
Okay.
I like onions, but I like onions. You can do that. You can direct seed them, but keep in mind when you direct seed onions, it's going to take from 100 to 120 days before they're ready to eat. If you set them out, transplant, 60 to 80 days. So if you direct seed, do it in the wintertime. You know, they're a cool season crop.
Yep.
You know, you can direct seed October, November, December. So in that way, you will make up for the difference in day length. You know, 60 to 80 days from you know, after the last frost, it'll be about the same. But yes, you can do that.
You can do that. Yeah, I know some of the farmers in Shelby County Community Garden that will actually start doing this in November.
Yeah. And that's and those guys, their onions will be ready at the same time that the folks that wait until the springtime to put them out, the sets and transplants.
And if it doesn't work,
And if
you've
it doesn't work.
always got the nice bulbs in the store. So you won't be disappointed. You can go ahead and tuck them in where the ground's already ready.
That's right.
That's foolproof.
That's right.
That's insurance.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's insurance.
insurance.
Yeah. You're exactly right about that. Yeah, good, well-drained soil with some organic material in it. Yeah, it'll grow some great onions around here, folks.
Yep.
All right, Johnson, thank you for the question. All right, Mr. D, Elena, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you all much.
Thank you.
All right. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplot@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. Today we planted tomatoes and corn. If you want to get more information about how to take care of them, head on over to familyplotgarden.com. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.